No! 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 They were dancing, drinking wine, making love! Oh, my children of the atom, destroyed! No!
Thinking about it now.
Okay, so
what was the story and who was the writer for the Ultimate X-Men or Ultimate Wolverine versus Hulk?
the artist is Lin Yu.
Yeah.
Well, for this one, right?
Yeah, this was the art of.
Yeah, because this wasn't the first time this artwork wasn't the first time they met, though. It wasn't used in the first one.
The first time they met was in Incredible Hulk 181.
Yeah.
Question quotations, because
I think you're actually
cameo.
pretty good on
There's
that.
a cameo in 180, and then
Right.
they actually see each other in 181. So they first meet there, but the Hulk versus Wolverine is a different question because that was decades later.
Yeah, you're right. 181.
Oh, Damon Lindelof from
Damon,
Lost
that's
fame.
what, right. It was Damon. Okay. I was like, it was a name, a high profile name. Because I remember the writing felt very different for him because it started with him introducing to Hulk as like this. He was in like the Himalayas or like this Hindu temple, and then he's just in a harem essentially.
Yeah.
When Wolverine finally finds him, I was like, what?
I mean, the Hulk likes his harem. So have you read all of Planet Hulk?
I mean, wait, did Planet Hulk? He didn't have a harem in Planet Hulk.
Yeah, he did. Well, I mean, you started off with what? It was
Early on in it, I think he may
when
have.
he was the gladiator, he was like getting tail left and right.
Yeah.
Well, because he has the Queen, and my brain's like, when I think Planet Hulk, I think of the Queen, which leads
Well,
to
the Queen comes.
Scar,
Yeah, the Queen's towards the
spoilers
end of
and-
that. The beginning.
Okay.
Of, she's more of a presence in when he starts to return back to Earth.
No, because then she's dead, and she's not a presence.
Yeah,
I don't
that's
like the
what
way.
Daisy.
I don't like the misogyny that's already coming across in this storytelling you're doing here. Oh, she's a bigger part of the story where she's.
I mean,
dead.
hey, she's
Much
the best
bigger
part of the story when she's fridge. Damn it!
Yeah, what's
He
her
needs a
aspect
reason.
is fine.
That's your stance, Kyle Gass. Do your thing. Like that's.
Hey,
I just want this Kung Fu Panda money, guys. Everybody stop.
I learned it from the Green Lantern. I learned it from you.
Technically, that is true.
Yeah, fair enough.
Welcome to
just saying.
Tangential Giants.
Yeah, give us an intro, Pat. We'll get back to this topic in a second.
Welcome to Tangential Giants, where 3 to 5 middle-aged men argue about comics, pop culture, and anything else that comes to our mind until we get too tired and have to go to bed. My name's Patrick Kellenberger. I'm going to pass it to the person next. Somebody talk now. Go.
I'm Kareem Anderson, the other host on this podcast, and we're joined by.
My name is
Half Pint
Kurosh,
Hoppa?
and this
What
is
is
the Half
that?
Pint Hoppa.
There we go. Yeah, Kurosh, you introduce.
I'm going to introduce Ken. He
Thank you.
he made his debut at the Comic Book Corps, a hit internet TV series that was way ahead of its time. Took off, became a high profile egomaniac that was just too much of a drama on set, so he needed to go off and do his own thing. And he found space amongst two giants and just found stardom, found fame.
Yeah. And
Well, this is his his return. This is after he had already done a bunch of coke and got kind of banished from the industry.
Fuck you, Dewey! Yeah, fuck you, Dewey. In 20 years, not once have you thrown a woman my way. You don't think we like cheating on our wives, too?
And you never once paid for drugs. Not once.
You pay that chimp more than you pay us. I had to borrow from the chimp to get a mortgage on my house.
Yeah, the return.
Finally done rehab.
This is the Tony Stark era of the Robert
There we go.
Downey Half Pint Happa.
Oh, I was gonna be like, I thought we were going like with, again, we had Lost in there. My brain's like, oh yeah, Drive Shaft, and they had that hit. You all, everybody. You all, everybody. But
I need to mute. Ken.
Yeah, we're not gonna let him talk
Okay,
anymore. He needs to go redeem himself once again. Back to rehab with you.
And-
You're on the
Okay,
sauce
so
again, aren't you?
Wait, so do I do the DUI where like I'm a billionaire and I could have afforded a?
Oh yeah, you're JT right now.
A limo. Yeah, okay, that's fine.
You started to come back.
I'll
That
go-
just careened
I'll
off.
go cross my tips right now.
Yeah.
This is going to ruin the tour.
You know who
man.
didn't ruin the tour? I didn't ruin the tour.
Yeah,
My name is
with us.
My name is Kurosh. I have a YouTube channel, Cujo Prime, and a previous guest of the show.
That is true. And
What are you
now
up to
these
you are
days,
a
buddy?
present guest, and hopefully you will be a future guest, and then all three will combine into one. Or time has no meaning.
And it's a flat circle.
You damn right it is. It's the one thing I learned from Matthew McConaughey outside of Drive a Lincoln.
You're a smart man.
All
What are
right.
you up to these days, Kurosh? Before we get into our topic,
What's
let
that?
people know. What are you up to these days?
If you're not familiar with me, I have a YouTube channel, the KJP Show, on my YouTube channel at youtube.com/@CujoPrime. I celebrate and elevate indie games. I focus primarily on indie games and game development as a whole. I interview game developers. I talk about a lot of indie games in the space and review them and talk about impressions of the ones I have. Just did one interview with a friend of mine who I met at Comic-Con, where we both this is kind of a deviation from what I typically do, but it was regarding a new indie Prince of Persia that just come out.
Ooh.
And I don't see a lot of past Prince of Persias be very accurate to the Persian mythology or Persian history, and this one resonated with me, and so him and I just chatted, and then halfway through the chat we just started speaking in Farsi too. So we're like,
dope.
2 princes, 2 Persias, let's go. It was a good time. He's a good guy, and I got another one coming up soon, so I should be.
Well, is this the one that kind of looks like the Hades game or a previous Hades game?
It's not. It's a 2D. It's
Right.
I would say it's more reminiscent of Dead Cells. It's the developers of Dead Cells.
Okay, you're right.
Evil Empire is the development studio, which technically is indie. If I'm stretching a little bit, I know the IP is a little bit more high franchise, but that studio is the one making this game. It's in early access right now, and I'm enjoying it. It's a lot of fun. The music and the vibe is really good.
So this game is based on the Jake Gyllenhaal movie.
Further could be further from that.
Entirely lost my interest, but okay.
Says the white guy on the podcast.
I will say it's funny because it is a year where we're seeing not one but 2 entries in the Prince of Persia franchise. Earlier this year, there was a Metroidvania called The Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, and that one, if I were to make a stretch, that one's closer to the Jake Gyllenhaal one, solely because the voice acting is a little bit British-esque, and while I know Jake Gyllenhaal didn't sport a British accent, many of the cast members in that film sported British accents, and it
hold on. He drifted in and out of one every now and then.
I may have blocked it out of my memory, so forgive me.
Just as the resident schlubby white guy on the podcast, I assume that anyone from history or another culture speaks with a British accent. Thanks.
Due to colonialism,
except for
just colonizers. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, except for Tom Cruise, who decided, let me be the last samurai too. Let's do this.
And in Valkyrie, that was the one that also threw me out. Everyone's supposed to be German, but they're all British actors. They're all speaking with British accents, and then he's just Tom Cruise. I'm going to talk like a normal.
Now, would it have been more weird for him to have an accent? I felt like he made a choice to be like, you know what? It's going to be weird and throw people even more out of the movie if I try an accent.
Fair. There's probably a conversation that took place, but he didn't even go for any accent. Everyone else.
Well, I feel like it's suspension of disbelief. Like once you get like the first 5 minutes of him talking, you're like, you know what? That's just who he's gonna be, no matter what.
Oh my god!
But I think if he tries to stumble over an accent through 2 hours, you're gonna be like, no, this is really not working for me. Stop.
Did we forget when he did an Irish accent with Nicole Kidman?
Yes, everyone forgot that collectively. So
okay, fair enough.
She's got an awfully large chest to be going to church.
Oh, Shannon, all chests are equal in the eyes of the Lord.
Okay,
It's Far and Away is the movie you were referencing.
Thank you.
Yes.
And also, there's this outtake, like 10 minutes of footage of him like practicing a German accent that David Miscavige has like buried in a vault somewhere that will only come out in case of a true emergency.
Under the Scientology building in Hollywood.
Yeah, of course. Yes. We're doing great. We're doing good, guys. All right.
We're glad to have you. Well, we'll get back more into what you do at the end of this. But tell people what we're talking about today, Pat.
We're talking about X-Men 97. For those for longtime listeners, you remember we got halfway through X-Men 97, and then we proceeded to do other things because of timing and things like that. So today we'll be discussing
attention deficit disorder. So
that is also true.
It's our shiny object.
I mean, that's why the show has the name it has. That's kind of the point. So we're going to wrap up X-Men 97 and discuss the final 3 episodes, the closing of the final 5 episodes, and the closing of the season and where it left off and what's going to happen next and how many more comic books can they jam into another 10 episodes next year. I think all of them.
At this pace they're going, probably.
Yeah.
Just burning through stories.
I mean, well, that's when you think about it, though, like when you have stories like Days of Future Past that is so beloved and well remembered, most people forget that it's just 2 issues. Like it's 2 issues of a story that's been padded and added to, and the mythos has kind of been elongated over time. So it's like Days of Future Past is a 2-issue story that became an entire movie, and I want to say I'm trying to remember multiple episodes of the original series. It's like there's it's just seeds that they plant across the multiverse, so to speak, or across the era. But yeah, it definitely informed it. So
I mean, but they've also pulled from stories that people had long forgotten as well. It's a lot of stuff from
and things well past the 90s too. Like let's just grab some stuff that it will be that people who remember the original series will have potentially read because they were such a big fan, or because they haven't read it, and this will be the first time you see Genosha as getting decimated, and it's happened. I want to think at this point 2 to 3 times in continuity, depending on when you.
We're actually due for another at this point.
Okay,
this is the big earthquake in California. I mean, we're due for it. It's been 80 years.
Beautiful. I mean, look at that sun peeking through the clouds. Like people say bad things about Genosha, but I think there's
a lot of open space
on both sides. Yeah,
a lot of food real estate.
Yeah. Buying low, guys.
Interest rates all-time low.
Yeah. In Genosha, just practically they're giving them away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So when we left off, we were at episode 5, which was
okay.
As a Gambit fan,
remember it.
Whatever. Exactly.
The sad death of Gambit.
That episode. Yeah. What was your guys' general, if you don't mind me asking, what was the brief thoughts on that?
Glad he's gone. Hope he doesn't come back.
Yeah. Worst character ever. I'm sad he didn't die sooner. Quite frankly, Rogue, I never saw what you saw in him. I prefer the geriatric Holocaust survivor. I think he's a much better fit. It's just general pod thoughts.
Okay. I had quite the opposite. I cried for a month. It was a devastating episode, but I think we mentioned that it had one of those cultural moments, kind of like that Stranger Things episode from the most recent season with Max.
They haven't done anything since. Yeah, with the song and
the way the music interspliced.
Yeah, it broke through into a wider zeitgeist that a lot of shows don't do anymore. You might have that.
Right, yeah.
You might have that a little bit with Fallout. I think we kind of had a recent one a little bit, but not since Game of Thrones have we kind of had where it's at least the larger part of our echo chamber or infosphere is shit. Did you see that episode with Gambit? Damn, that it hit people strong and hard, and so it was definitely a well done episode and season. So.
Yeah, you had people talking about it across multiple mediums. I think TikTok had a bunch of reactions to it and stuff like that. And so I was thinking again, it was kind of reminiscent of when people were watching the first couple episodes of WandaVision, where that was what people talked about in that moment, and that was all people were talking about. I mean, obviously it's faded since then, but we haven't really had a Marvel project. At least not for this one particular episode. I think at this episode is that episode encompassed a lot of the first half of the season where everyone's like, this is really good. We haven't had that kind of discussion in a quick minute. I'm not saying that the projects have been bad or I haven't liked all of them. I've a handful of ones. I was a huge fan of She-Hulk and stuff, but the conversation was overwhelmingly positive, and it was very hard for people to be like, you know what? DEI and this sucks and they shouldn't have had women in this episode. Like it's just everyone was just kind of on board with everything that was happening the first half of this season, and particularly that episode as well.
Yeah, I feel like I enjoyed it a lot. I think some of the things like looking at what was going on Genosha itself was very interesting from both like the perspective of what's his name, Magneto approaching Rogue of like, hey, we can lead this nation. Like there's a larger effort here to lead, look beyond just X-Men, think bigger than that, and like the impact that could have. And what Rogue was going through emotionally between her history with Magneto and then her history and challenges with Gambit, and then just the sentiment from those back home getting interviewed. Like I loved how it was also like interspliced, and the structuring of that was really interesting because it kind of was like there's the ground zero kind of impact, and then also the impact that's felt from those that weren't there to a degree. Like the things that Beast was dealing with seemed trivial by comparison. Like he started getting, it looked like he was visibly just getting upset with himself. He's like, my problems are like, this is why couldn't I could have done something. What could that have been? And I think that's kind of to your point, Kareem. I think, and going forward with these other episodes, I think it kind of gave it a moment in this MCU-esque, but like just like Marvel, just television, Marvel Entertainment stuff, where I think after what was it? The part one of, was it Infinity War? Or was it Infinity War was part one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
With the disappearance, they treated that as like this global event that occurred, and like everyone was like pre-post that traumatic event. I feel like this, from the mutant perspective, was very much like it was this unifying, like, hey, you know, how have you changed since that? Like, it could be fuel for future things going forward. I think prior to that, all the earlier episodes were drawing off of the nostalgia and some of the maybe deeper seeds that were left from the 90s show that this is what kind of like building off of and going off of. But like that gave it something where it's like, hey, we got a lot of things that this could then go from going forward. In addition to everything else they kind of have on the landscape, that added more fuel to that. And I'm like, even though, yeah, I'm just beyond this season. That's where my head kind of went from. Of like,
it definitely is a date marker for the show. Like, you know, it's going to be the, you know, for lack of a better analogy, the 9/11. Like, this is life before the Genosha massacre, and this is life X-Men changed afterwards. And it's interesting because we're going to get in episode 6 right now, where you have, what is it, the wrap up of Storm's story, so to speak.
Yeah.
And so that kind of. Oh, go ahead, Pat. What were you gonna say?
Well, that's not where we start, though.
Oh, you mean start the episode? Oh, sorry. Yeah. What? Go ahead.
We start the episode with known war criminal and piece of crap Professor Charles Xavier once again trying to find responsibilities that he can ignore and somehow make it all about himself. Sorry, please continue, Kareem. I just wanted to make
No,
sure.
you're good. Keep going. Keep going. I am all for the Xavier bashing.
Yeah. Professor, let me go ahead and give my school to my friend that became my worst enemy, has tried to actively murder multiple students of mine over the last whatever years. Professor, oh, I'm dead. Wink, wink, wink. I'll be in space trying to have sex with bird people.
Yeah, instead of my right-hand man. I mean, I've had this evolution over the last, I don't know, 2-3 years, I guess. You probably, if you listen to the pod, have heard it. And those of you who are friends of mine that have seen it, I've become a fan of Cyclops. And prior to this, I was not. I was quite the opposite. Did not like him. And now watching Xavier kind of do what he did and screw him, I was, you know, even more upset for him. Be like, as Pat described, you left it to your arch nemesis.
Yeah.
Not the right-hand man, the kid you plucked and groomed all this time. You're like, you know what?
Groomed is the proper term here, by the way.
Yeah, groomed probably
go on record. We start off with a bunch of space hogwash with Professor X. He's going to marry into the Shi'ar. He's going to marry Lilandra and become.
Let's not forget he's walking now because it's special.
Oh, suit. Yeah. All right.
And
Professor
but also, like, we start with Deathbird too, just like handing some Kree their asses, and like
specifically,
the show's really
what's his name?
Really showing some people their Ronan the Accuser. But like the show's also showing its kings because it's like, oh yeah, she's gonna crush this high heel in his face. Like, oh, this is a little more Donnie mommy than I was expecting.
is that showing its kinks or is that showing Chris Claremont's kinks? Because that's really, I feel like if we're going to get down to it, it's
heels and leather.
Did we see characters turn their arms into tentacles? Because that's happened like with 3 characters. So I didn't see that. So this is a different. It's
season
a
2. Season 2. You can't show all your cards now, Ken.
Yeah, fair. That's right. I need to learn better storytelling. That's fat.
Keep them wanting more.
Just Chris Claremont watching, getting hot under the collar.
He's like looking to join the Shi'ar Empire in that capacity, but they're not having it either. They're like, you want to bring this dirty monkey into our house? How dare you?
Oh, and the colonization is ripe in this episode.
Oh, oof. It is. I think that's one thing I love about the show is like they do such an adept hand at like just like handing people these stories, and it's like, do with these what you will, and they're like, oh yeah, these are just great superhero stories. Like, how are you missing that there's so many subtle layers here? People are just like, I love X-Men. They fight. Like, all right, people. Like, I can't. You can lead a horse to water, but what are you gonna do?
What was the term? Didn't she call it ghetto something or other? Like
Earth? That ghetto planet, I think, or ghetto
backwater planet, or
it was in reference to that. It was. I mean,
of course, Lord Chancellor. I nearly
spoke the quiet part out loud. Xavier would see his Milky Way ghetto become our new throne world.
And as I was watching, I'm not gonna lie, my eyebrows were like, she's right.
I think, I mean, for me, the way the story was written, I feel like the show writers almost wanted you. I feel like the show almost wanted you. It was like serving Xavier up of like, you better have a damn good reason why, like in stark contrast to the prior episodes, the pacing of it of like, that just occurred. What are you up to? You not only are we finding out that you're alive, it's not that like you're alive against your will. It's not, it's you're living good, it seems. All is good. And I'm like, they're setting him up in wrestling terms. I feel like they're setting him up to be a heel in some ways. Yeah. Of this portrayal of like, oh, must be nice. You just kind of drop the ball, Pete Deuces, like you said, Patrick, of like where he's at. So I found that kind of interesting, and I appreciated it because it's just so something that I always felt was just like tonally like maybe you guys have covered this, but with the original series, I was always like, yeah, they portray him with these good intentions and stuff, but like there's a lot of just naivete of like how he approaches stuff and just loses the barrier, misses the mark with certain things and execution.
I want to say, I don't think it's naivety. I think it's selfishness, and I think people like gloss over that because of his ambitious rhetoric. The man is entirely selfish and will sacrifice any and everybody to attain his selfish goals. Now, his selfish goals happen to be, integration, which is nice as the overall rhetoric. But he's literally a ends justify the means, and we always point that at Magneto. And the only difference is that Magneto does it for mutants. Xavier does it for humans. He will sacrifice mutants left and right to spare humans.
I think it's also his like he always takes the quote unquote the high ground just because of his methods aren't as just abrasive or violent outright. It's almost like this like I'll let them be the first offenders, but I'm kind of like queuing them up in a way, and I'm like, I don't know, that seems more toxic in some way.
Yeah,
you're gaslighting Cyclops into like lifestyle choices and the grooming and everything. I'm like, your mind like. I don't know what's the rating on the verbiage here.
Whatever you want to say.
Fucking him.
He's mind fucking him, like literally and metaphorically.
Yeah. That's brain rape.
Yeah.
No, it's
horrible.
Amazing. Oh, calm down over there, Light. It is amazing how much he gets away with, and so much of it is based on because he's a telepath. I think that plays a lot into it because he will do atrocious things that like you would expect Magneto to do, but he just does them in somebody's head, and then we find out about it later. Like, I wiped that guy's memory 20 years ago, replaced it, with just tiddlywinks at a party. So, it's cool. Professor X, baby number 1.
Really? Yes, great. Fantastic.
Why don't you take a peek into my mind for a second?
Yes, ma'am. Oh, you! It was dicks!
Yeah,
I like that we're just recasting him as Rick Sanchez. Like, he's just has no disregard for anything. He just does whatever the hell he pleases. He's just like,
I mean,
Professor X.
Is it wrong though, Ken?
He just does it with a quasi British accent and sound sad.
He's got money.
No.
Yeah. Despite being from America, but it's. I mean, I think we've talked about this before. That's just because of the inflection from the movies and other things bleeding over and just our expect. But yeah, like he just does it with a little more posh. He's just like, oh,
so, I
no.
mean, just in terms of the portrayal here, I felt like it was being a little bit more honest about that as opposed to those earlier, which I appreciate. I was like, as a show, I'm like, they're not glossing over. They're not trying to, at least to some degree, a little bit less, like not being like he's this almighty, word of just virtue.
Well, and I think that to your point about the pacing, the juxtaposition of it is like stark. Like everything that he left Earth thinking like, oh, this is going to be in good hands, has gone to shit almost immediately. Like I don't know how long he's been gone, but it's been less than a year. And Genosha
6 months.
Yeah, and Genosha and most mutants are gone.
Happy
and he I was gonna say
is that like the Goose from Baha moment? It's just like Happy Nation.
Woosah. But yeah, he's off with his bird queen or whatever, and now they're having their own issues because the apparent heir is like, you know what, I don't want human ascending the throne, so I challenge you, and then he takes them literally to school in their minds.
Yeah, so we'll cut quick. The Professor X is for him to marry into the royal family and become king consort. He must have his mind wiped of all memories of his previous life on Earth.
Well, again, is that the standard process, or did what's name bring that up?
That was
Deathward.
That was her challenge.
Yeah, that was Deathward's challenge. She's like, if he loves you so much, let him wipe his mind. It's like, it's all just. It's all. It's
because she knew he couldn't do it.
Yeah, well, because that's the thing is, it's the ideology. Like, if you then debate me, okay, just debate me in a public forum, and then we'll decide. Like, we already did, and I won, but it's no, because she knows it's a lose-lose situation regardless, and so she knows that it's like there's no benefit for him to move forward at that point because it's all just political posturing. Like it's just because she wants to be able to still have access to the throne and take it when she usurps her older sister.
I mean, fair enough. That is what she's actually doing. But I'm saying there's an argument for the way prior to what Xavier teaches them. That is the mentality. It's like we have to keep our process and our goals unified.
Our house clean.
Essentially, yes. And this thought process from this mongrel from the ghetto Milky Way galaxy is going to ruin that. And the only way to make sure that he doesn't is if he doesn't remember all the bad shit that he learned from Earth.
All that whack-ass human stuff.
But we all understand that that's bullshit. Like, your memories are who you are. Like that.
Well, I mean, it's easier said when you're living in space already. When you come from, it's like, if an American traveled abroad and was like, a gun-toting Second Amendment person, they go abroad. It's like, hey, well, you can't have that same sort of mentality in Italy or Greece or anything because those cultures are different.
I'm not on their side, but they can still have those memories of like, I remember going to that gun club. I can't go here because we don't have them here because we're civilized. They're a civilized country.
So why don't we make a gun club here? And that's where the problems start.
Because he's not a citizen, he has no rights to do so. He's
going to be the president of the area.
We're using the slippery slope argument.
I mean, that's exactly what she's doing.
Oh,
because if he's king, he can start suggesting that kind of stuff.
King consort. It's different. I'm watching House of Dragon. It's
basically just.
You should address me as my king.
But you're the prince.
What would you call the husband of the queen?
Well, the king.
There it is then.
Consort.
That last bit seems unnecessary, don't you think?
He's just a concubine. Like, that's all that is.
I feel like that's how they're like. I feel like that's how his side is trying to persuade them. They're like, he's just gonna be next to
but
me.
he has the ear of the queen.
Right.
Very dangerous. That's very dangerous.
Yeah.
So again,
I think that's
a gun store. Let's get it built. And
I mean,
start passing gun regulations so I can feel like I'm at home.
I mean, are you against like common sense gun laws, Kareem? Is that what you're trying to say in this podcast?
No, I'm for it. I'm saying
Okay.
that if you're going to allow him to bring those memories, he's going to remember all the like crazy Second Amendment shit and be like, oh, you can't constrain me. This is how I want to do it over here. And that's what I'm saying. She was saying wipe his mind so he doesn't bring that shit over here.
I feel like that was the approach. I feel like if they're worried about his other things, or how much room do they have for new rules and such?
You don't like it? Sanction me, okay? You know, like that's.
they're like, well, old rules we do this, but if he's a unique case, we got to put special rules on him. He's got to wear the mind cap. He can't be talking to weird stuff. I don't know.
Or maybe they
just do weird stuff.
Maybe they just knew him from the previous history of like their run-ins with him. Like, this dude's fucking weird.
Yeah, you know that whole like Dark Phoenix scenario? He was there. He was part of it. Like we should probably address that. Oh, by the way, he keeps looking at that Vulcan guy, kind of weird. He says like, oh, you're Summers, you have a history, and we don't want him talking about that. Like we're trying to keep things behind.
We might want that guy.
Yeah, we already took care of that. Like, don't bring up old shit. Like, come on.
Well, his
feels like a bad reality show. Like it just feels like there's all these like. Have you seen the reality show Ultimatum? I feel like this is the Shi'ar version of the Ultimatum.
Oh wait, no, the one on Netflix, right? Where they're like they go out.
Well, it's essentially like all these people are on this place. It's like any other reality, like love thing.
Yeah.
And they were either giving an ultimatum or they got an ultimatum. I feel like this is the Shi'ar Kree version of Ultimatum.
Well,
right? Mojo wrote the show. Like it's a perfect.
Okay.
Like,
yeah, he's living fat off of this show.
So at one point, does Lilandra shout next, and they pull another hot blonde bald guy off the bus, and they just bring the next one on? Like, how does this work?
Explain hot blonde bald guy.
He's got blonde eyebrows.
Yeah. Right, thank you.
Yeah.
He was
and also,
previously blonde.
Just because you don't have the drapes doesn't mean you don't have the carpet. Okay, let's just like
mustache, facial hair.
It takes all flavors, facial hair, beards, like whatever you want to, whatever gets you going is how you do it.
We know she has the type, Pat.
I'm not king shaming here, Kareem or Pat. I'm just letting people know whatever they want to do is welcome here with Tangential Giants.
Yes,
I disagree wholeheartedly.
Fair enough.
In the middle of his lesson,
that
he's trying to teach them, like, hey, you guys are colonizers and you do shit fucked up. He gets a vision of
black.
Yeah, exactly. He gets a vision of Gambit, dead Gambit, who's saying, I forget what Gambit says to him. Did he say anything, or did he just opened his mouth?
I thought it was just a skeleton, but
he saw a vision of the X-Men intro, and he saw Gambit wasn't a part of it, and he was like, oh.
He's like,
my intro. What happened to my beautiful intro?
Why is Nightcrawler there? They let him back in. That's furry. He's gonna get all over the carpet. All over the couch.
Only Morph gets to stay because he can look human. Get out of here.
My beautiful X-Men.
Yeah,
they were passing. They were the X-Men.
These patents are paying for everything, so he has to stay.
Look what DEI's done to us. I gotta go back and fix it.
I'm so upset. Wait, who's Bishop? This is ridiculous.
Bishop.
Oh, you sent him back where he came from? Sounds good.
Good job, Beast. Good job. I go back in the closet. But how does he figure out what happened on Genosha? Did they have like a TV in space?
No, I think it was the vision.
It's all that, all the vision and download
and style.
So, but the thing is, he's a telepath. So did he just like get a?
It's called psychic backlash.
Like a psychic shock from everything that happened on Earth.
Yeah,
solar flare.
Yeah, it's like Kurosh said. It's as if 1,000 voices reached out all at once or something silenced. Like it's just like, oh, Gambit was the first to die.
But I was gonna say, wouldn't that be the lack of? Like, would he get nothing?
Gambit?
No,
Xavier. That energy
is gone.
No, but my argument, I think the solar flare-esque example would be the moment before they passed.
Okay.
The large concentrated sense of distress.
Okay.
Is like a shockwave that just went through the cosmos, and then he's attuned to it.
And then was quieted. Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
So that happens when Professor X a whole bunch of shenanigans happen, and Professor X's like, I'm a teacher. I'll teach you to be kind to each other and kind to me. And
He
puts
took him to
them
the
in a
School of
mental
Rock.
school.
Yeah, School of Rock.
Just
no longer on tour.
terrible. And then halfway through his lesson, here comes the shockwave, and Professor X, I gotta go back to Earth now. I gotta go. I got stuff to do. I'll see you later. And I think he just didn't want to get married. I don't even think he wanted to get back. I think all these bird people are crazy.
Runaway Bride.
Yeah.
Starring Julia Roberts as Professor Xavier.
Yeah. Hey, Lalandra, how do I like my eggs? That's what I thought. Matt.
You don't even eat eggs. That you know of.
This is a bird planet. This is really different discussion.
Yeah.
How dare you?
Richard Gere would fit into this world.
I would like to see a bald Richard Gere as Xavier if we were doing recasting. That'd be awesome. And I still want him. I want him as Xavier, but in Pretty Woman.
I just put him the unfaithful Richard Gere in
Oh,
my head, and so he's just bashing people in the head with snow globes. As
Oh,
Xavier.
jeez. You're sleeping with my wife, aren't you? Say it.
Not left
Say
and
it.
right.
So then what happens right after that scene? Do we get back to Storm, or is she already fixed by now?
Yeah, we go back to the story.
No. Yeah, we get back
She's
to
fixed
Storm.
by now, right?
No. It's because it's like the first half of the story was Xavier. Then they go back to Storm, who's treating. I believe is she treating
Forge.
What's his face's wounds? Kurosh, you have a question?
Yeah, before we go too far, I wanted to ask you guys' thoughts on the decision of Xavier to go back to Earth. Was it? I know why he was prompted, obviously, but like, do you think at this point, given the decisions he's already made and left, and kind of, should he have gone back? Should he have just stayed?
He should have stayed.
No, he definitely should have. I mean, it's weird because it's essentially two sides. It's his own arguments against him, because his argument to stay would be is that, if you say like, oh, they'll never accept me, it's like my entire mission on Earth was that I don't care if they will accept us eventually. I will stick this out. I believe in the dream. This is Xavier's dream. We're gonna make it work. And then he's like, it's not as good a dream. I'm gonna bounce this. It's not gonna work here. It might work back home. Peace out, homies. I got shit to do. Like, his argument could work for him and against him in both lights. Was it the right move? I mean, yeah, because he had to go clean up the mess that he started by putting the wrong person in charge at his school. Like, he has to go take care of shit. So
Whoa. Are we saying that this is Magneto's fault somehow? Because I'm like,
no, I don't think it's that it's Magneto. I feel like it's that. I think there is finally a comeuppance of a sense of guilt that it just reached a pinnacle for Xavier. Maybe I think for the longest time he's just kind of been like, as long as there's no strong ramification for what I left behind, is whatever, like negligence, dismissal. But the fact that that what had occurred and what he realized occurred, he's like, oh shit, I gotta maybe own up to some of this, or would I let things be. Like, maybe, but it's kind of your fault. But it's because I wasn't here to guide you. It's kind of like he's gonna reverse gas. He's gonna gaslight him into be like, it's because I wasn't here that you guys screwed it up.
Yeah. Clearly, you need me. He's like the parent that they've got 20 kids over and there's a pool, but he's not watching any of them. And then one falls in the pool. It's like, shit. I was out here the whole time. You guys did it wrong. You didn't listen to me.
I think we come to find out though that he is practically useless though. His decision to come back or to leave, what I'm saying is he didn't really leave the X-Men in a good state to begin with.
Yeah.
And when he comes back, he doesn't necessarily help him either.
If he had
Magneto, on the other hand, does at least immediately stop the bleeding. He's an action on kind of guy.
He's also incapacitated by the time Xavier gets back.
Saying, when he's allowed to do something, when he's allowed to make a choice,
right?
He knows how to at least do enough damage control that Xavier doesn't. Xavier is hands off. I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And he leaves that way, and he comes back that way. And the X-Men, I feel are better off without him. If he's gonna be like that when he comes back, just stay gone. Let the X-Men believe you were dead.
But they
And
didn't
will
believe he
figure
was
themselves
dead. They knew he was alive.
Did they?
Did they?
Yeah.
They didn't know.
yes.
Well, they didn't know if he was going to live or not. When
Right.
they saw him, it was like he was close to death.
Because
Like,
when he comes
maybe
back,
he lived,
Wolverine
maybe he
sees him.
died, we don't
He's
know.
very shocked.
Yeah, well, because so he leaves and he's essentially in an incapacitated state, but he's not dead. He didn't leave dead. He's like, yeah, you know, the Shi'ar can probably fix him. He'll go ahead and go with Lilandra, they have a relationship, so hopefully she can heal him. And they, for all intents and purposes, they tell everyone that he's dead. There is a cover up there. There is a dispersal of misinformation saying, oh, you know, that guy over here, Henry Gyrick, killed Professor X. He injured him deeply, but you know he's still alive.
The other explanation though is, well, he was almost dead, and then bird people from space came and picked him up, and now he's in space.
We've all seen the clip. He's like, I'm only mostly dead.
Is it any weirder than where's your kid at? I sent him into the future. I think it's fair. The X-Men doing some weird shit.
Yeah, I don't know how child services didn't show up to the mansion. No, seriously though, where's the baby?
Yeah, come on, produce him.
I mean, if they want to get if they want to open the door into a faceful optic blast, like
that's how you get the heat off your back, is shooting him in the face with an optic blast, and they ask questions.
I'm just saying, you know what? I'm tired of people coming to my door asking where my babies are. I told them the first time, I sent them into the future. What more do you want from me? And
he didn't say that. He just he got no hissy fit.
He did. He said
no, he didn't.
He explained. He did.
He didn't say where his kid was.
He gave him enough information that they needed. Okay.
Baby future.
Baby future.
You got it. You get it.
Gave him to a black cop. What do you want from me? Okay.
He's a cop at least.
Like this was their version. This was their version of like if they got COVID, they would be like, "What's our answer? Don't quarantine them. Send them to the future.
Get him the fuck out of here."
Gross.
You don't want that shit to spread. Let it spread in the future.
Well, you know, he also said, well, my wife gave him to a black cop. I didn't want to do it. She wanted to do it. Like, he definitely throws Madeline Jean under the bus.
Ah, jeez. You mean his clone wife?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead and explain that one, too.
He's on a lot of talk shows. Jerry,
that should be like a spinoff. It's just him going on a talk show trying to explain what the fuck happened. Or we could do the like Maury Povich, where it's like they bring Jean Grey on and be like, "You are not the mother."
She doesn't dance.
Yeah. I never wanted these kids. They're not mine. They're a clone and they're a future weird version of me. Fuck off.
Yeah.
All right, so we get Storm healing.
Oh yeah, Storm.
And then does she eventually go back to the mansion, or is that she shows up at the end, right, of this episode at the mansion?
This episode, no, it's the next episode.
Yeah,
this goes up, right?
This one was just her getting her powers back.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is where Storm got her groove back.
Yeah.
Okay.
Where
the adversary, she fights the adversary, realizes that the powers were with her all along. She had them, and it's a good story at the moment. But like when you're in the right after everything we just had, we're just like
the pacing was a little.
Let's go. We just left shit hanging. We got shit to do, and like it's good storytelling, and like you want to hear it, but you're like, when's the next episode? Can we get? We need stuff. I need stuff.
It was definitely a pace setter for this one. Like you had to reset. Yeah. Like you couldn't keep going at 100. I don't think that the audience would have been exhausted by it. But we get the cool new suit. She changes from
the original
white,
suit,
but the longer hair now. Somehow she grew her hair with the electricity.
Yeah,
I honestly would have preferred. Wise would have been because what happened to her was around episode 2, right? When she loses. I think it's fairly early on. I would have liked, rather than like 2 kind of focused episodes on her and her kind of rechanneling and discovering, just a little bit all the way to the end, and then just like this big, like she finally has a big moment, and it's like this hard journey that she's gone through this whole thing. And it would have kind of, to me, felt like, oh, there's things that we see, or maybe it was like don't see but show, and I don't know how
I think you're absolutely right, but I think the problem is that for the events that were happening, it was going to be hard to explain her absence. I think after episode 5, so you kind of had to wrap her stuff up.
to me, it would have been more just how isolated she had made it. Like, my hope would have been there was a way in which she had just completely isolated herself, maybe even from, or maybe Forge withheld some of that information in some way, because he's like, or he has to face a choice, and it could have been like, I can tell her, but it's going to frustrate her or something. Or if she's making genuine progress, she needs to just focus on this. And he makes a choice for her, and then that causes some tension later of being like,
Yeah,
I could have been there. I could have done something more, and frustration and like this goddess like character of like just coming to the end. That pacing wise, that would have been my preference, but
it would have been great. But I also think you would have ran into people going like, dude, wrap her stuff up, because everything else, I mean, when we get to the Sentinel stuff, it's like, they're in a whole different lane, and you're going to start going back to this thing where, like, we're doing 70 miles an hour, and then we get to Storm. It's like, slam on the brakes. We're back at 35 for a little bit, and people are like, all right, come on.
That's why I would have liked just maybe a little bit. It could have been like the start of every episode was just like a little, hey, where's she at? And it's like almost like Kill Bill, like wiggle the big toe kind of feel, and and just could
have worked.
Would have been crazy, but yeah, it was her and Forge had kind of an interesting dynamic in this, and I don't know. What did you guys think of it?
I felt it was rushed, to be honest with you. But go ahead, Pat.
Well, I was gonna basically end up the same place because I really like this story. It's a really good one from the 80s. They did, once again, this is plucked from the deeper X-Men past lore, but it did feel like, I feel like you either dedicate a whole episode to it and don't split the difference, and you can go a little more in depth with things, like let it have a little bit of extended runtime, or what you said, which was a little bit maybe in the front, or even as like a 5-minute post episode stinger.
Yeah,
that you could do and divvy up that way. I think having it divided in with 2 episodes that are two of the most vibrant and zany portions of this first season, with the Mojo stuff and then Space Birds and Professor X's sex journey.
With a little bit of Genosha in the middle.
Yeah, it's just a drop, just a dollop of Genosha as a treat. It was pretty jarring. It was well done. I think they did a really good with the characterization and everything else, but yeah, it felt very fast paced.
Off tempo is I think the word I would use.
That was the word. Thank you.
Yeah, it's because it's like you do have that Motendo episode where you're like, oh, this is just fun, and you're like, we're running around doing video game stuff, and you are dealing a little bit with Roberto and his understanding of his role within his family and what his powers, and him presenting as being an openly mutant character, and then you go into life, death, and you end it on that kind of like, this is what's happened, and then we go off to remember it, and we're like, fucking shit's got, this is just the Genosha episode, and it's going down. And then you're like, you get a little bit of whiplash bouncing from these different storylines, which is, it's hard to do, like, especially because it's confined to these 10 episodes, and you're like, okay, we can do 35-minute or 44-minute, we can do whatever we want because it's now outside of this new format, so you're not constrained by that, but you're also like, how do we make the pace work in this format? And it just kind of like it's off tempo. You're like, okay, boom, 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 and it's still enjoyable, and I'm still glad we had it. But it is definitely one of like, could we have gotten it in little like, and each episode either has those like they're the post credit scenes where you have those her stories like bits and pieces here, so it all comes together after X-Men episodes. I mean, in the big picture, I'm glad the story we got, and I move on to the next episode. And I'm like, all right, cool, let's go. We're gonna have Storm back and potentially Forge.
That's what I was gonna say. Like we're about to basically take off into the end of this growing storyline. So I think they were just kind of like, you know what, we've indulged that aspect of it. We've also been able to sprinkle some stuff in that's going to lead to this, where we're about to take off. But let's wrap that up so we can focus and have everybody where we need, all the pieces where they need to be, instead of having to be like, all right, how do we bring Storm back into and where do we drop her off in the storyline while all of this is going on? Then explain to the audience where she's been at, and then explain to the X-Men that are in the show, like, oh, since you've been gone, this has been going on, but now you've dropped in, and how did you show up? Instead of doing all that, they were like, you know what, she's done. Now we can get everyone, all the pieces together. Now let's play. And we're getting to episode 7, which is really like, if I'm not mistaken, this is the one that basically is like Rogue going crazy.
Yeah.
Or Rogue responding appropriately to the world that she's been placed in.
Fair enough. I meant going crazy as something positive. Like she finally is unleashed, or kind of expressing the her frustration, dismay, loss, sadness, all of the emotions.
I want to say, like, the one thing that I loved about this, and earlier I think it was in the first episode with Psychoff, the love of Marvel vs. Capcom 2 of the animators is so much evident in this show. Like, there's numerous moments where I was like, they're drawing from the game. The kick she has, we
were putting that out in the chat, me and Ken, in one of our chats. I didn't realize this until the show, and someone had pointed this out on like Facebook or something like that, and I was like, oh shit, they just literally like the same poses.
Yeah, the kick. I think even in the towards the end in the finale, Cyclops gets ready to do his optic blast, and he gets and does. And I was like, dude, as a lifelong like MVC2 fan, like that was so.
I'm so glad it's coming back.
So chef's kiss, and yeah, it's coming back, and Evo's right around the corner. It's all like this lined up really well. But yeah, I appreciated it. That
explains the whisper. Makes a lot more sense.
Just have somebody just kneeling in the background.
Yeah, what's going on? Mega Man's coming. Mega Man's coming.
Why is there a giant Lego? What's happening here?
Since you mentioned it, and the most recent cable is the Marvel vs. Capcom cable, and so nice. I freaking love it. It's awesome.
That was
he's on my desk. Yeah,
but yeah, so she shows up looking for answers, basically. So she goes to what's the first place she goes to? Trask, is it?
Yeah. Trying to get to Trask, who's being kept in like a bunker, right?
Well, that's
or was allegedly believed to be in a bunker. Yeah.
Okay. So she breaks into the bunker, destroys a whole bunch of equipment, probably kills a couple soldiers. Like, I don't think there's any way.
Is it Thunderbolt Ross that she runs into?
Wasn't it him?
I think it's I think it says Ross. Yeah. I'm pretty sure it says Ross on his little name badge thing.
Yeah.
Well, that could have been a Ross. Like, there's a lot of Rosses out there.
I don't know. He didn't seem fazed by her strength. I feel like it's the Ross.
I think it's because don't they say like like this place can handle the Hulk?
Yeah,
and that's the reason for them. That's I mean, future president Thunderbolt Ross, but that's a different podcast.
Is it?
I mean, it could be this podcast. I think that also speaks to something that Kurosh mentioned earlier. Is like this has the feel that they go with a larger world. Like we do have seeds of like, oh hey, that guy over there, that's Thunderbolt Ross. They mentioned the Hulk. This exists. It doesn't exist in just the X-Men. Like we don't have just that world. Something that X-Men 97
3 minutes later we see Captain America.
Well, yeah, I guess to even this point of like what they could draw from this, honestly, for me, that would be an easy through line would be like, oh, if there's an episode in the future that is a strong military presence, they could be, and like they're at conflict with the X-Men, they could be like, after we saw what Rogue did to some of our facilities or something, like we were in like we need to have a response to that, and I'm like, you now have seeds for future ideas and numerous.
Well, they've already laid the seeds if they wanted to. It depends on. I was a fan of it, but I know a lot of people weren't. But they laid the seeds already for an Avengers versus X-Men thing, with the discussion that Rogue has with Captain America about.
Well, that too, yeah.
His lack of presence when they need him.
Yeah, and she's like, and she calls him out, like, "Are you here to help mutants? Are you just saying that for the cameras?" Like, but to double back real quick, it is the idea that these heroes don't exist in a vacuum. That they do the same things that that Iron Man, Captain America, Spider-Man, these characters exist in the world. Like we know they do, and then to treat them like the garbage that they are treated like, there's a reason she's hit her breaking point. Like all this stuff happens, and it's like, oh no, we acknowledge we live in a bigger world, and then that's one thing that's great about this with Thunderbolt Ross is like, oh, we can stop the Hulk. You can't stop a pissed off Rogue, so best of luck, buddy. Like, you can destroy this place.
Yeah, I don't know what they think they're going to do against the Hulk with that. It was a
well, I think he's banking on the lack of intelligence with the Savage Hulk. Maybe I'm like, you're dealing with a fully facultated Rogue. Like she has all her faculties. She knows what she's doing with herself.
I mean, it depends on who's setting it up. Because if it's Kurosh, he's going to do the harem. He's going to have the harem down there for the Hulk.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you know what? Never mind.
Oh,
Yeah.
I will say there was a moment like they had this like nice back and forth between Captain America and Rogue, and at the end of it, regardless of how strong a point that Rogue had, she's just like, you know what, chucks the shield.
I was gonna ask. Here's a question: do you think they ever found that shield?
I think they do. I bet there's a tracker.
There's a
on
homing
it.
on it.
Shield's not going to let that just go off into like nothingness. Like I'm sure they have backup shields, and he has the hard light hologram shield if you need that because it's the 90s, so that's a thing.
Okay.
And
how long do you think it took for them to find it?
I mean, they have a hell carrier on detachment to be like, I'm going to need an extract for the shield, just for the shield. Yep.
Yeah. Cap lost it again.
I guess the question I would have is like, as remote as they made it seem, I'm wondering if it was it hit some dudes, like destroys the home, or like just takes out a whole crops or.
I'm picturing that scene from Loaded Weapon where he's like, where they blew up his house. He's like, no problem.
1014 Pacific Coast Highway.
No, this is 814 Pacific Coast Highway. 1014's 2 blocks up that way.
Sorry, my mistake.
Yeah, no problem.
The guy crawling out of the rubble.
It's funny how often we reference that movie, by the way, and it's not a problem. I'm fine with it. It's just funny that it's right there in my head.
But as soon as she threw it, and you see it like go off in the distance, the little like flash of light showing that it may have landed somewhere. I'm like, I wonder if Cap was more angry with the conversation, the fact that the shield's gone.
You know what would have been good? Would have been good world building or plot point if it goes to the end of the show, post credits, and you see the Shi'ar Empire just kind of like doing their own thing, and they're like, okay, I think we're better off without the humans. All of a sudden, the shield just comes through, destroys war with the humans. We're going to Earth.
War. This is the symbol of the human.
Yeah, the American. They're like, this is Captain America's shield. Like,
I told you your lover was going to do this. No one listened.
That's a real oopsie daisy by Rogue.
So now in my head, that shield does get lost and is later on found by Guardian of the Galaxy Vance Astrovic. So he has in the like that's a joke for like 3 people who remember that comic, but
those 3
one of them's laughing.
Those people fucking love it. It's awesome.
That's a good joke. That's a good joke.
The shield heard around the world. I wonder if Rogue also like. I know she's devastated right now, but I wish she went back and was like, I fucking showed him. Guys, I threw a shield and no one's going to find it.
What up?
Nobody.
I like it more if like for like the next week, she just randomly finds Captain America and takes his shield and throws it.
What are you going to do, huh? Give me that.
What now? He's like, the 5th one. What are you? I said I was sorry.
You keep finding them.
But yeah, she definitely went on a bit of a journey that episode, I think. Like,
and for all that, it's Trask calls him and tells them where Gyrich is. For all her like journey, it's just the phone call from the other bad guy, like, "Hey, he's in Madripoor. Help!"
And this is where we get the realization that there are what are they called? What kind of Sentinels are these?
Oh wait, Prime Sentinels, but we're still a while from
We're not quite there yet.
Are we? I thought this was the episode.
No, we are. But...
No, I mean this is the episode, but this isn't the moment. I mean, but if we're not going, we're going bit by bit.
No, just what's the next?
Yeah, it's fine.
I'm drawing a blank though.
No, it's okay. Right. I mean, then Rogue goes to, she's gonna go to find Gyrich, and then what's his face, just smothers him in his sleep.
There you go. He's killed.
Bastion's just like, I don't need you anymore. You're more of a problem than you are a help. We're done with you, and kills Gyrich.
You served your purpose.
Yeah. And then heads off to they go off to the whatever facility, and he gets a phone call. And it's like whatever. He's like, go to the floor and get a soda. It does a thing, and then they all show up because Rogue touched Gyrich at one point to get the memories, and ends up there too.
That's right.
It's all kind of
Well, she goes to I think what was this? He was trying to like I guess, intimidate her, but like, oh, you can't get the information from me. And she was like, well, I'll just touch you then.
Yeah.
Get what I need.
You can't do that to me. Like, oh man.
Damn it. She just did it.
And was the question that he had a psychic block put in to like stop her or something? Like, how does she get knocked out from it?
Yeah, from the programming from the Prime Sentinel program, we'll say, because I mean it's essentially what it is, but also we're using comic knowledge from this to a certain degree too.
So I was wondering too, though, like, because we find out that like the Prime Sentinel can be either turned on manually or kicks in when they die. Was she like about to kill him by doing the touch?
No, I think
okay.
I would imagine that it was because he was still alive after she left, and that's when was it Sinister or was Bastion? It was Bastion who shows up, doesn't turn on whatever that failsafe is, and just says offs him, right?
Yeah.
Am I wrong, team? I don't know. By the way, the light's coming through my window and just like blinding me.
But I was just wondering, and
nothing to
having seen, maybe Rogue is so far off the deep end that she was ready to kill him also, just didn't get a chance to. It was like, I'm going to drain you completely, and then it kicks in that he's like, Prime Sentinel time, and that's what broke the connection and like knocks her out.
Oh, okay.
Like
I believe that if in terms of like the struggle she was going through at that time and the rage she was,
because we see it like again later in about 10 minutes if she's willing to do it again or this time.
Yeah.
That's right. So the X-Men are contacted by Trask, who's terrified of Madripoor. Rogue knows it because of that, and then that's right. Don't Sunspot and Jubilee, they're doing something here, right? Aren't they having the
go off.
with...
Yeah, they go to meet with her mom or his mom, and his mom's like, "Yeah, no, I've always known you were going to be a mutant, but now's not the time to come out. We're going to do it.
Shut up. Shut up about it."
Yeah.
Now's not the time to be mutant. So,
like, understanding at a surface level, but not in when it comes to like what it means in terms of lifestyle. Because she was like, "Keep this to yourself. I always knew I'm okay with it, but like for our business stakeholders and everything, it's a bad look. Like, shut up."
Very much so.
And I'm like, "Oh, it's almost like a worse version." Like,
I mean, it is very much the scenario of like, it's money over anything or everything, even like your child's own like identification and happiness. It's like, I'm happy for you, but don't let it affect
until
the money.
I'm not. Yeah.
Well, until the money is affected, then I'm no longer happy for you.
No, exactly. Yeah.
But then we get them cornering. Is it Trash right at some hotel?
Yeah.
I mean, cornering. He invited them there too. So is it cornering? If it's like, they get to him at the top of the tower. Well, I can't think of the word. Penthouse suite, wherever. And they're like, blah blah blah. Let's talk. And Rogue's like, I'm done talking. And they're kind of like, you know what? They're not all against it. Is the thing too? They're like, she's got a point. Yeah. Oh, we also completely, because I think it's how the episode opens. We glossed right over the funeral for Gambit, by the way.
That's right.
Which was, I mean,
with Nightcrawler talking, yeah,
with Nightcrawler, which I thought was a great touch because it's like his Catholicism being a part of his character is great to have in there, and like you have the Thieves Guild and the Assassins Guild there, and you have, I want to say, I can't remember her name, but Aurora from Alpha Flight there for some reason, I guess. And I'm like, that's all right, that's fine. She's here. I don't know. I don't remember a story where they really connected. So like, oh no, she would be there for him. So
yeah, that was a question mark.
Gambit knows cool everybody. It's kind of a well-known fact.
But it's definitely cool for them to acknowledge, like, oh hey, this is his New Orleans connection. Let's go and get that in there. And the fact that they didn't have Rogue there and like that hurt Jubilee. Like she's like, no, like this is messed up. And Jubilee, I mean, Rogue's doing with her own stuff too. So it's like it's good storytelling for all the characters to kind of how they are reacting to this loss and like what that means to each of them. So
well, and when I believe later in the episode, Nightcrawler and Rogue connect, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And
because when Rogue wakes up after her touching not Trask, Gyrick. She's like, she wakes up in the middle of like the town that they're supposed to meet in, and she's like, oh, there's a Nightcrawler here. All right.
Well, he explains that they're all there to help, and that's what you see everyone kind of there to give her a hug and stuff.
Right.
Just highlighting the because they're siblings in you know. in a roundabout way, but they are siblings, and highlighting that relationship.
Wait, are you trying to say? They're family?
Oh, you damn right. That's what I'm saying.
Perfect.
They're family.
Yeah.
Thank you, Vin. I also find it interesting that they chose Nightcrawler to give the eulogy or whatnot to kind of, because of all the people that they could have given, at least drawn on to be part of this.
Who else got to do it?
So I was wondering. That's what I'm saying. Like, you think about all of like Gambit's, the people that he knows, who would actually speak for him if he were to die, other than if Rogue wasn't around.
Well, I think.
I mean,
part of it was Nightcrawler's like just religious kind of tones that he brings, but I think the other part of it, to me, in my eyes, if that wasn't even a factor, it would have been someone who was there on Genosha. Like,
I was wondering. I was thinking it was more along the lines of like him almost being a brother-in-law, essentially, since him and Rogue share that familiar relationship, and Gambit's always with Rogue. Like, it's when they're on Genosha, it makes it seem like the three of them are family. And so if Rogue's not there on he'd be the next best thing.
I feel like if you're not going from the emotional pool, you would have gone from someone who can find the words in hard times, and the two people that come to mind would be
Bishop.
I could,
no, just
Bishop.
Man.
No, I feel like it'd be Team Blue. It'd be either Nightcrawler or Beast.
Yeah, you're right.
Like Beast would find the way of being poetic with how he would have described things and try to no,
well, no, not that. Nobody's picking Beast because he's going to go on for 40 minutes too long.
True.
It
gets them through their grieving.
That's true. Now it's just annoyed. Like, hey, we're good. All right, we got stuff to do. X-Men things are happening. Let's go.
Well, I mean, but the thing is, maybe is it common knowledge that Nightcrawler was legitimately a priest for a bit, like he was ordained as a priest and was in the priesthood? Was that known to everyone?
In the comic,
I knew he had
in the comics. In the comics, not necessarily in the show.
Oh. In the show, no. In the show, he was known as the faith leader in Genosha.
Right, but that's also enough of a commentary bleeding in from the comics. But correct. That's why I'm like, you're puzzled as to why they had him. I'm like,
no, I'm not puzzled. I was saying that I found it interesting that's who they chose. Not puzzled. I was like, I think that's a good call. Like, to Pat's point, one of those two would have been good if Rogue's not there to be in his stead. I was also wondering, what I was more interested in running in my head was who on the X-Men knows Gambit enough to like be there for him other than Rogue, Nightcrawler. Like, Hank has a bonding relationship with Cyclops, is like they're initiating brothers. Same thing with Iceman and stuff like they would be there for each other. Wolverine and Gambit don't like each other.
Well, the person who knows him the best, aside from Rogue, wasn't there. Storm. Yeah.
You're right.
He came in through Storm. Yes. Like, that was part of his first appearance, and so she's likely the person who knows him best, aside from Rogue, and she wasn't there. Like, she wouldn't have. Like, I forget when she pops back up. Is it not until after the attack?
After the attack,
right.
So like, we're still in episode. We're next to the next episode. So
like, she takes off when she hears about the Genosha attack.
Right.
She takes off, but she doesn't show up again for everyone to see until this next episode after the attack.
Yeah, because she sees it on we see her see it on TV, and then she's like, okay, I've got to return now, and she's got her powers, but just because the timeline of events, because she didn't see it live, she saw it on a rebroadcasts. The vibe.
To Kurosh's point,
or it took a while to get back.
He TiVo'd it. Yeah, they had some real long conversations to have. Like, you didn't tell me this was live. You were doing so well.
I wanted us to have some time together,
Yeah. I was really hoping to hit that, but you gotta go. All right, so can we get to Rogue finally being a attempted murderer?
All right, let's real quick.
Living in the gray.
In Madripoor, it's when the X-Men learn about the secret UN and Mr. Sinister evil plot to get rid of all mutants, and there's a super new Sentinel program, and then Rogue decides to toss Trask off, and he becomes one of the super new he activates because one of the super new. Which type of Sentinel is it again? Just a human Sentinel hybrid.
Sentinel Prime. Yeah.
Sentinel Prime. And he is whooping everybody's ass. Everybody.
Shit out of yeah.
I'd like to clarify something. I have no relation to Sentinel Prime.
It's gonna be hard to defend that when Prime's in your name.
Yeah,
I have to acknowledge that it is more of a tie to the DC roots of Superboy Prime. So I just want to make sure that those.
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure that that's a better way to go.
We will see you in court.
Like,
no further questions. No further questions.
I'm not tied to that genocidal maniac. I'm tied to this one.
Whoa, the multiversal one. Let me go to the multiversal. You could have just said Prime from the Ultraverse. We all went, oh, that's a good pull.
Nope.
Can we go to the Autobots? Can we just do that?
No,
you already said too much.
Too late now. You already threw in. Yeah.
Too late, multiversal Stalin. Have fun.
Our fun.
So,
but yeah, I love when Rogue goes to drop him and whatnot. And is it Nightcrawler or is it Morph that says is this who we are now? Even though Wolverine's kind of like it's Morph. Kind of.
Yeah, it Morph's someone who's like he's more ambiguous. He's like, is this what we do now? Like,
there we go.
And he's like, meh, yeah, why not? And then you get the whole like come back to wrestling. Like, oh, now like, oh, everyone's got to take a like everyone gets their butts handed to them by him.
Here's another question though, before we get into that ass one, which we'll get in a second. Why does no one else try and save him? There were at least 4 X-Men that watch him fall that could have stopped this.
Wait, 4? I can picture 2.
Well, Jean's
Who
there.
could have saved him?
Jean, Nightcrawler.
Jean, Nightcrawler. Yeah, fair enough. Wolverine, I mean, could sacrifice his own body.
And would he? Would it
he
help?
Survive the fall?
Here's the question: do you?
No, but would it help the human? Like in the instance that he is a human, and he's like, oh, I'll take the blunt. Like then he's just hitting adamantium flesh when he hits the ground. Like unless he just wants to whisper in his ear, I hate you and I hope you die.
Hail Hydra.
As he's falling.
Yeah,
I feel like
you deserve every moment of this as we
there
die.
Are at least 2.
In defense of those 2, I think they gauged how much he had to fall, and they're like, I got a moment to think about this. Like this guy's not like. I feel like they probably aren't perfect, and they're like, I'm questioning things a little bit. I got a sec. Quick time event. Bars slowly closing.
it feels like Nightcrawler. I can see missing it. He's in shock. Jean just has to think. Jean's like, nah, but it's also like, yeah, Jean's fine with him dying. It's fine.
Yeah, I think
Jean's not the like, meh.
He was in with Sinister and this whole thing. Like, I think I'm good.
Yeah, I'm
just saying, everyone looked at Rogue like, oh, I can't believe he did this.
You can also say that Jean is still recovering from being mind
No,
wiped.
you cannot say that because she throws an entire building into the ocean seconds later.
This episode or
yes.
Next episode? Okay.
Seconds later.
Okay.
Yeah. So human hybrid Sentinel Prime Trask comes, whoops their ass, and the only thing saving them, the only thing that stands in their way is Josh Brolin's Cable.
With his EMPs.
Yeah, does an EMP and then tells them we're all screwed.
We also
showed up again too late. Damn Apple Watch.
We also get a moment where like Morph like says, you know what? I can use powers that I copy that aren't just, and I'm like, as a stupid pedantic nerd, I'm like, I don't know if he can be Quicksilver. I don't think he can do that. But it's fine. It's for the moment. It's for the cameos. It's for them to be like, no, we have a budget of things we can do, and we're putting it.
Hey, we don't know what Sinister did to him. Not fully.
That I'll give you that. I will give you that because there's a window you gave and you're using it. That's fair. It's just one of those things where like my brain's like I get when you do other things, but I'm like, this is a little bit off the beaten path. But fine. He was experimented by Sinister, and he's far more creative now. Totally fine.
You have
like when Emma unlocked Iceman's powers.
What's up?
It's like when Emma unlocked Iceman's powers.
Yeah, he's like I never had the need to be creative until now.
Why do you throw snowballs? You could do all of this. What? No, man, I just throw snowballs.
You can make yourself an ice giant. Snowballs.
No, snowballs are cooler.
Who doesn't like popsicles?
Yeah. See? Stupid Emma.
Well, at least Emma unlocked his powers and just didn't out him like Jean Grey's ass.
That's a fair point.
That is
bitch.
Jean is more problematic. That's a weird thing to say.
Hey, you think maybe it's because the person that trained her in psychic powers was Professor X? You think maybe that had something to do with her being problematic and not viewing it as a problem when she just uses her powers willy-nilly?
No, it's fair.
I mean, I want to say he's 1 for 4 in that original X-Men team. Because Beast wouldn't fucked himself up, turning himself blue. Archangel went crazy, died a couple times. Cyclops is all kind of messed up in the head, and so is Jean Grey.
Angel
Go ahead.
Angel got his like wings stripped and like destroyed during the mutant massacre. Like that's not necessarily on Angel that he was destroyed. Like
no, not on Angel. I'm saying it's Xavier's tutelage of the initial like his.
Oh, okay.
Of him taking care of the initial 5, right? The first
5, yeah.
He's really only one of the students have come out semi-normal, and that's Iceman. Like Jean Grey, like I said, Jean Grey is all effed in the head. So is Cyclops.
Yeah.
Beast tried to cure himself and ruined it. Now he's got all kinds of issues. Archangel's died a couple times.
Yeah, I mean the Angel's
well.
a little bit less like it's less on Angel or Professor X. Like
it's on Professor X.
I don't know why I'm trying to defend the rich white guy.
Yeah, you really are. You're really stretching here.
Look,
no,
I'm just give him 40%. He gets 40%.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Who, Xavier?
40%. Yeah.
I give him 60. 30%. He put Angel in the field.
That's fair.
When his only power was he had wings.
That is a really good point. What's your power? I got wings.
You
Good. Here's a rocket launcher.
Yeah.
I feel like if with the way they had it, everyone's all messed up. I would love to see Iceman in the second season as kind of like well-adjusted, kind of like containing everything, and then his like old triggers. Like, wait, who's here? Xavier, and it's like it's re-triggering him, and he's just like, no, let it go. It's the past. Whoops.
That's basically what we got though in the one episode he was in.
Yeah,
he's like, no, I'm done with Xavier's.
You're right. Yeah.
I'm just trying to find Lorna. Something's happened to her. She's missing. Like you all know Lorna. She's Polaris. We need to find her. And he's like, I'm done with Xavier's. And then they ended up like helping him find Lorna, and she ends up working for the government as part of X Factor. But he's like, after that, he's like, I'm done with all this. I'm out. And like, so that's
what I'm saying. The only well-adjusted one was the one that got away.
To Turner, yeah, like that's the case for the animated series version. He's just like, nah, I'm not. I don't drive with this shit anymore. We're done.
Well, you could use the real reason, which is it's very expensive to animate Iceman. We can't. That's a lot of money, guys.
Is it though? Yeah. You have Morph turning into everybody?
No, I don't think. I think Iceman's fairly. I mean, in CG, yes. That's why we never really got Iceman in the live action movies, is because having Sean Astin turn into ice was just too expensive. But as far as we had Spider-Man as
Sean
Astin.
Friends.
I'm sorry, Sean Ashmore.
No, Samwise Gamgee. Yeah,
Samwise Gamgee as Iceman. Rudy Rudiger.
Rudy was an X-Men.
He was the first Iceman.
Bob will fix it. It's fine, guys.
Xavier wiped everyone's mind. Okay, he was the first chubby Iceman.
Okay.
Then they got a much better fit, more clean cut Iceman later.
Sorry, it's Sean Ashmore, as what I meant to say.
No, you're right the first time. There you go.
Okay, fair enough.
He was part of that Vulcan team.
Yeah, he's
Mr.
also
Xavier, I can carry you.
I can't carry this institute, but I can carry you.
I can't carry your problematic nature, but I can carry you.
No notes.
Fair enough. I mean, I prove me wrong, kids. Prove me wrong.
I'll do this. If this is coming out before Comic-Con, I will be doing a panel at Comic-Con. I'm hosting a panel about the balance and the intersection between art and play for game developers. And so I'm bringing the questions of how do they balance their creativity with the business needs that game development requires and demands. And then I'm on a panel about underrated films.
Okay.
Oh, with Nothing New.
With underrated podcast, Derek. McDuff.
Oh, sorry, underrated. I was thinking of a different podcast.
Yeah,
sorry.
I've been on his a few times, and he has kindly asked me to join his panel about why certain films are underrated.
Cool. And just to spite Ken, I'm going to put this out at the end of this week as a teaser for the rest of this episode. Dick.
Yeah. Bring it. And the best part is, you won't even give me an opportunity to mention my panel, so you just be there. It was out, and you could.
Damn right. Like
you
that is
did.
it.
Cut.
Hey, Ken, do you have a panel at Comic-Con?
There's just an empty box where Ken is right now, and then Patrick just got himself deleted. It's just these two hanging out.
It's a big middle finger right there. Oh, I have AI generators. It's like 6 of them.
Ugh, God.
Ken, mention the panel real quick before, so he has to do the work. He might get lazy.
He has to do the work to cut it out. I mean, if you've got something to do, it's 7:30 on Saturday at San Diego Comic-Con. In room 10, we'll be discussing how comics improve critical thinking with a number of guests, including speaker JPG, a number of educators, librarians, and a licensed marriage family therapist, and discussing how those skills are congruent between comics and critical thinking.
Shit's official, son.
There you go.
All right.
What about
Kareem,
you,
now
Pat?
you're really on the hook because there's 4 comic panel. There's 3 or 4 panels being pitched here. So.
Oh no, I'm gonna add it. I'm just like I said, I'm teasing the rest of this episode by putting this forward since he says I can't get it out in time.
Oh, the best part is
show
like,
over here.
If you put it out, but then you put out just the last half after the show. Like, yeah, I left that part. I put it out, but I didn't leave yours in until after. It got released afterwards. I put it out Sunday night. Best of luck, buddy.
You mentioned something, Ken, but for my panel will be Friday night at 7 p.m. in room 32 AB.
Wait, what room?
32 AB.
32 AB. Okay, so that's above Hall H, backside.
Yeah. Hall H was not big enough, so we went above it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Checks out.
Smart.
Yeah,
You're
we were like
we don't
Deadpool.
want
You guys take that one.
Yeah,
you probably
you could take our leavings.
Yeah,
yeah. People
doing,
leave
Pat?
your panel and then the yeah.
They're only waiting in your panel to get to mine.
Exactly.
Sorry, we ran out of room.
You're actually just streaming my panel into that room while you're trying to talk.
You want to talk about Deadpool? This is just going to keep going. Okay. So,
what are you doing, Pat? Where can people find you?
I'm attending Comic-Con, so I will be there applauding our friends here and asking any questions they have fed me to ask.
Shut
up.
During the Q&A.
Feed them the answers.
And then I may just wander on stage for a
You
panel
are so
if it
handsome,
sounds
Kurosh.
interesting.
What's that?
Pat's gonna be like, "You are so handsome." Like, that was
Yes.
the question. Sit down.
Ask the panel. It's not me. I'm the moderator.
Do you
He's like,
think
we don't want to
Kurosh is
hear
the
any more
most
from
handsome?
you. Sleepy Hopper, you're very tired. We don't want to hear it.
But I might wander on stage if the panel's interesting. Just start talking. We'll see.
It'll pull a Clint
Yeah,
Eastwood and
but-
start yelling at a chair.
I have opinions.
Well, he's an old white guy. Let him talk. Let him cook.
Yeah, we better.
Let him cook. Let him see what goes here.
It's not going to end well.
You know what?
I'm gonna give
gonna-
us the secret to money.
I'm gonna try and find this print at Comic-Con for you, Kareem.
Don't.
Yeah.
It's missing in the background for you right there between all the other
well,
X-Men.
It's not. Well, we are. I'm happy to have you. I've had you, and I'm glad you took the time to come chat with us.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Thank you guys for having me again. Always fun coming on here. I feel like the best ideas come out in these conversations. I'm like, this could be a great. Like, I've been still excited about the Green Lantern idea we were talking about.
It was
Yeah.
Now I'm excited about this idea.
The Hulk Wolverine show.
a sad.
It's
a sad
really
moment.
it's really
It's a
just
sad
it's
man.
just therapy with action.
Yeah.
I mean,
Isn't that what therapy is?
It's like 2/3 of comics.
Here's
It's like saying a horror movie's about grief and loss. Yeah.
That's why I watch Dragon Ball Z, is for these kinds of moments.
he's just
Those
going
therapeutic
to
moments of whooping their ass.
with Wolverine and Hulk. There you go.
No.
There's a story. You're done.
They tried it. Even with this most recent iteration of Hulk, they brought in Wolverine again. Just randomly ran the stories together.
Yeah.
But they haven't done it on the big screen.
Not yet. We haven't seen Deadpool yet.
Just saying.
Deadpool apparently can have
I'm
everything
saying,
in it.
yeah, if we get an Eric Bana Hulk, just like bounding across the screen.
I want if they're bringing back Eric Bana, they have to bring back Nick Nolte.
Oh god,
and the big puppies and the puppies.
I feel like we talked about that on Comic Book Core and how bad that was. God,
Nick Nolte's still alive.
Oh damn it, Hulk! What the hell? What are you doing, Hulk? Oh,
jeez.
Hulk.
I'm just saying.
Yeah,
If this is a road trip, we got to hit all the stops.
It's fair. You don't miss the world's biggest jawbreaker. Good night, everybody.